Moving now to the Capitol, President Trump's big, beautiful bill is turning out to be a big headache for many Republicans on Capitol Hill. At this hour, some members are not even sure what's in the legislation as they race to get it to the finish line for that July 4th deadline. Scripps News congressional correspondent Nate Reed is live for us on Capitol Hill. He's been tracking it all. And Nate, we got somebody in the Senate who essentially has the role of saying what can and can't be in this reconciliation bill. There were some big decisions over the past few days. How are members reacting there?
Yeah, there's only certain things that actually qualify to be in the big, beautiful bill because of the way the Republicans have chose to pass it without any Democratic support, not subject to the filibuster, that 60-vote threshold by which most legislation in this country is passed. For that reason, there's a lot of restrictions on what can be included in the package. One of the things that nonpartisan Senate policy referee, knocked out of the bill was the sale of certain public lands, something that Senator Mike Lee, the Republican from Utah, had been pushing for. That was knocked out of the package. That was something that was applauded by both members on both sides of the aisle of Montana's congressional delegation and other congressional delegations, especially out west, along with Democrats. That being said, some of the architects behind that amendment saying that they might want to bring it back in some shape or form if there's any way that they are able to do so. Again, this was one of the most unpopular parts of the overall big, beautiful bill. According to a statement from Senator John Curtis, the Republican from Utah who serves with Senator Mike Lee, he said, quote, "Let me assure Utahns that no one supports selling public lands that are environmentally sensitive or part of national parks or important wilderness areas, but it's a false narrative to say we can't return some federal lands surrounding developed areas back to local, rural communities to ensure they remain livable." Now, this has been a massive flashpoint issue in the U.S. Senate with people posting all over social media, urging them to call their senators' offices and make clear that they do not want public land sold as part of the big, beautiful bill. The goal here to try and provide more land for housing development in certain areas, but also possibly as a revenue raiser to try and raise money for some of the massive tax cuts that Republicans are hoping to pass as part of the big, beautiful bill.
And Nate, we know that the president is about to touch down back in the U.S. really at any moment here. Where you are, there were a number of White House officials on Capitol Hill today really putting the pressure. How are lawmakers feeling about that potential deadline that is coming up in, 9 days from now?
Yeah, there's a lot of optimism up here that the Senate is going to get this thing done fairly quickly, even though senators still do not have the final text. They don't know exactly what's going to be in the final version of the big, beautiful bill. That being said, Republicans we spoke with said they think that they're going to have this thing passed by Friday, then leaving it to, Friday or Saturday, then leave this thing to the House of Representatives, which needs to pass the exact same version as the Senate's in order to get this thing to President Trump's desk by July 4th. Take a listen. Hey, Senator, are you confident this bill is going to be passed by the weekend?
Yes, we'll get it done by Saturday is my prediction.
After that, the bill wraps up, you think it'll go to the House without an incident? Do you think the Senate would stick around and wait for the House to process it?
Well, the House will just give it a thumbs up vote. We've been working really close with the House to make certain that there's nothing that we put in the bill or change in the bill that would make them vote no for it.
And again, some concerns among House Republicans that thumbs-up vote that you just heard Senator Moreno talk about could be effectively jamming them, forcing them to try and accept a version of the bill that many of them are not happy with. Earlier today, Congressman Chip Roy, the Republican from Texas, posting a lot on social media about his opposition to what he thinks is the latest draft of the Senate version of this bill. So clearly, the fight is not yet over. The House of Representatives is going to want to have their touch on this. The Senate is going to want to have their touch. There's a lot of concern, though, up here that once the Senate passes its version, it will effectively be the version that President Trump then calls individual House lawmakers about and tries to get across the finish line. Again, the White House press secretary telling reporters earlier today up here on Capitol Hill that this is going to be President Trump's singular focus once he touches back from the European Union.
Yeah, and Nate, we have learned from our White House team there is going to be an event, I think it's tomorrow night, where we expect the president to really pressure some of those lawmakers where you are. Congressional correspondent Nate Reed for us live on Capitol Hill. Nate, thank you.